¿Qué pasa, YouTube? What's up, everybody? Happy you guys. Today, the team builder for week 7 of GBA D League, where the Durham Dragons will be taking on the Montreal Habsols, coached by ASTERJ. I think definitely one of the top 4 best players in this league. Week 1, we took on Jolt, which in my opinion was top 2 of the best players. Last week, we took on Abe, which was easily top 3 or top 4. And then this week, we are taking on ASTERJ, who currently is undefeated going into week 7. So it's a little intimidating, not gonna lie. And I am a little bit nervous and excited about this. I think if Aster does beat us, I think he's basically guaranteed into playoffs, but I think if we win, we have an even better chance to still guarantee our playoff spot. And then I think if we win next week, we're guaranteed in the playoffs. So winning this week will be huge, although if we take a loss, I will not be entirely too upset because there's a good chance that we'll be facing Aster again in playoffs, so we can kind of get a feel of how he plays and what he kind of expects from us and what exactly he may be bringing, and then go from there for playoffs. But yeah, if you guys are excited for this, make sure to hammer arm that like button down below. If you missed last week's battle, it was a pretty good, crazy game against Aberforth once more, coach of the Newcastle Umbreon, so definitely go watch that after or before this, up to you. So yeah, let's take a look at the team preview down below me. So this is honestly not that bad of a matchup. I really feel like this matchup is kind of 50-50 in a sense. Like, I have huge threats for Aster's team, and Aster has huge threats for my team, or draft-wise, you get what I'm trying to say. And then it's just a matter of what exactly we're going to bring against each other. So, as always, the top 6 are what I'm mainly expecting going into this battle. Cresselia has a phenomenal matchup in this game. I'm like 99% sure it's going to be a Calm Mind variant, so I'm going to have to be really careful around that. Infernape, I think, absolutely has to come because it's his only answer to Snorlax. Like, Snorlax pretty much destroys his entire draft without Infernape, so I 100% expect that. Umbreon is realistically his best switch into most of my specially offensive Mons, so I definitely can see that coming. Typically, he's run Wish, Protect, Foul Play, and then 2 out of 3 times he's had Heal Bell, and then that 3rd time he's had Baton Pass, so that's what I'm mainly expecting Umbreon to be. Thundurus has just a really good matchup in general in this game and can help break through some of our bulkier Mons, whether it be mixed or nasty plot. We will see how it goes. Salamence is his Z-move Mon, one of his Z-move Mons, along with Quillfish, which I think both Salamence and Quillfish honestly could be like his 5th or 6th Pokemon. Although if he does decide to go down that route, then his team is very susceptible to Stealth Rocks, and that's going to be really good for us going into this battle. Although there is a chance that he may not even bring Quillfish and opt to bring Blastoise, which Blastoise does have a pretty good matchup. The only thing is though is that it's literally hard-walled by Tapu Fini. So I could see why he may not want to bring Blastoise, but I honestly don't expect Blastoise and Quillfish to come. Metagross and Piloswine could possibly be coming if he doesn't want to have Stealth Rocks on Infernape. And if he does opt to have Rocks on Infernape, that means it's taking up a coverage move, which is really good for us because Infernape really has 4 move slot syndrome going into this battle. So I'll have to see exactly what kind of Infernape set he is. But if he has a Metagross or a Piloswine, I would much rather see one of those two than something like Salamence or Quillfish or Cresselia, Umbreon, or any of the top 6 essentially. Honestly, don't expect them to bring Zangoose or Decidueye. I feel like they both have just absolutely terrible matchups in this game, and they're too slow, and Zangoose needs that initial turn to do any damage, but then a lot of my team already outspeeds Zangoose, and then Decidueye is still outsped by most of my team as well, and Decidueye just doesn't hit nearly as hard or is not as bulky enough to come to this matchup in my opinion. Plus we have a Kieran Black that just obliterates Decidueye. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on going into this game. So with that being said, let's jump into the first Pokemon. So first off, I want to give a huge thanks to the front office homies and the Bullet Punch Club homies as always for helping me out this week. K to the 2. Shuckle King 87, Harris is awesome, Quinn from the front office, and then I think Jay and Illusion and Azar helped me out, and I think Uzi as well helped me from the Bullet Punch Club. So yeah, this is the first team member that is coming, Cesaro, the Mega Aerodactyl. Now this is actually a really awesome Aerodactyl set that was suggested to me by my boy K2, aka Kyle. This basically ensures that Flynium Z Salamence does not sweep us. I don't really expect them to want to bring Dragon Claw Salamence, for one, because we have Tapu Fini, and two, we have a Bronzong, which Bronzong typically can just wall Salamence to an extent, so I could definitely see like Dragon Dance, Fly, like maybe Crunch or Shadow Claw or something. I guess Iron Head, Iron Tail is not completely out of the question. Maybe Earthquake, although I guess Dragon Claw also isn't entirely too out of the question, but I really don't expect them to bring Dragon Claw Salamence. Either way though, this team is made to not allow Ments to just freely set up. Like there should be no scenario where Salamence just comes in and just freely clicks Dragon Dance. And I don't expect a Scarf set of Ments, because Scarf Ments just does not have a good matchup in my opinion. Taunt is really nice because in theory Aerodactyl can wear down and beat Cresselia and Umbreon 1v1. Basically, the biggest issues going into this game is the wall core of Cresselia and Umbreon. Once I get rid of one of the two, this matchup will be 10 times easier, whether it be early game or mid game or late game. Once one of those two beasts drops, this matchup will be a lot easier for us, and we can kind of maneuver around the rest of ASTERJ's team. So Taunt is just excellent to stop potential like curse passing from Umbreon. It can also stop Calm Minding or substituting Cresselia. I'm really terrified of Cresselia going into this match, not gonna lie, so I'm gonna have to be careful around it and just see exactly what kind of set it is going to be. While Stone Edge and Earthquake may not be doing entirely too much damage to Umbreon and Cresselia, they are still going to be slowly but surely worn down over time, and eventually they will make it easier for the rest of my team to potentially beat them as well. Taunt is also really nice if I'm feeling aggressive to taunt the Decidueye, if it's like Swords Dance and I'm maybe scattered out for it. I can also potentially stop Piloswine from getting up rocks. I can stop Quillfish from potentially getting up spikes or toxic spikes. Taunt is also really nice to stop Ments from Dragon Dancing if for some reason I think it can live a Stone Edge. I think even after Intimidate, after Rock, Stone Edge KOs, but you never know. Earthquake is a guaranteed KO on Infernape after Stealth Rocks. Actually, Stealth Rocks are pretty huge in this game. That's why I almost do not expect them to come to this matchup without Blastoise. Like, Mega Blastoise is kind of annoying in this matchup, but it's very manageable. And again, there's a chance he may not even bring it because of Tapu Fini. But if he has Mega Blastoise, I would much rather see that than something like Quillfish, which Quillfish could be really annoying in this battle. But a very bulky Mega Aerodactyl set can definitely put in a lot of work in this game. This also just allows me to completely eat hits from the Umbreon. Like, Foul Play does not do entirely too much, and then I can taunt him, I can Roost, Stone Edge, and go from there. We have enough speed to outspeed Thundurus, max speed Timid Thundurus by 1 point, thus allowing us to outspeed his entire draft at that point. Next off, we have making his debut, finally. Can't have Cesaro without Sheamus. We got the other half of the bar here. Shaman, the Sheamus, finally again making his debut. I'm so happy to finally be using Shaman, man. It has been 7 weeks since a final version of my team has actually had Shaman on it. And Shaman in general just has a really solid matchup in this battle, honestly, because it's really hard for him to switch into Seed Flare. Like, yeah, he's got a Metagross, I guess, and Thundurus, Salamence, and Infernape, but if I have Rocks up, all 4 of those are being punished. Umbreon is still taking a clean like 35% from Seed Flare, and so is Cresselia. And then there's always a chance that I'll get the 40% -2 in the Spadef because of Seed Flare. That is one thing that makes Shaman so good, is the fact that it can get those -2 defense drops, which again is a solid 40%, allow me to just better easily handle things like Metagross, like Umbreon and Cresselia. I'm almost certain that I will probably end up beating either Umbreon or Cresselia because of a Spadef drop coming from Shaman, so that can absolutely come in clutch. Dazzling Gleam was my coverage move of choice because outside of Metagross, it hits everything else for neutral or super effective damage along with the Seed Flare, if I'm not mistaken. Dazzling Gleam also just OHKO's Mence after Rocks, which is really nice because if he thinks he can bring in Salamence after Rocks, he may outspeed me, then he'll Dragon Dance, and then I'll just blow him back with the Dazzling Gleam. Excuse me. Toxic is super nice in this matchup because if he doesn't have Heal Bell Umbreon, which is very likely because, again, Tapu Fini could potentially easily come to this matchup, so he may not have Heal Bell on Umbreon, so I can Toxic Umbreon, and then because I have Natural Cure, when I switch out, I'll rid myself of the Toxic, and then I always have Synthesis to be able to recover myself up. Shaman, again, is just really hard for his team in general to switch into once I have Rocks up. And I did originally want to go with like Leech Seed over Toxic, but in theory, Toxic is kind of better. Well, I mean, they're both really good. Like Toxic and Leech Seed are both really good in this matchup, but for this match, we're going to try a Toxic. We're going to see how it's going to do, and then maybe we'll change it up for playoffs, or we may not bring Shaman for playoffs. We don't know, but we do have enough speed to outspeed a timid max speed Blastoise. I don't really care to speed tie with Salamence because if I'm timid and I outspeed Mence, I don't knock him out with the Dazzling Gleam. At least by being modest, I can guarantee a KO with Dazzling Gleam after Stealth Rock, so that's the main reason why I wanted to go for Modest, and just Modest gives me that extra power to just really be able to dict most of his team, so really hoping that Shaman here puts in a lot of work. Next off, we have Kyurem Braun, the monster among Mons, aka Kyurem Black, rocking a more of a lore set, is what this can honestly be described as, because with Chople Berry, as long as we're sitting at above like 55-60% depending on the item of Thundurus and Infernape, we're guaranteed to live any one non-boosted fighting move, and then in return Earth Power OHKO's Infernape after close combat defense drops, and Ice Beam always OHKO's Thundurus, so I can lure them in and hopefully be able to finish them off with one of those two moves. Plus Ice Beam and Earth Power just hit his entire draft for neutral or super effective damage, and then Fusion Bolt is more or less kind of a filler move. I originally had Toxic on it to be able to Toxic Cresselia, but at that point Mega Blastoise was looking like a bit of a problem. Even though we are modest, Fusion Bolt still does a minimum of 51 or 50% exactly to even max HP Blastoise, and I definitely expect them to bring like a modest, heavily HP invested with a little bit of speed EVs thrown in there for his Mega Blastoise, in which case we can get off a huge hit with the Fusion Bolt, or if we're absolutely in the dire need and in that dire scenario, we can Fusion Bolt, chew an Aura Sphere because of the Chople Berry, then in return just 2 KO him the following turn. We are running enough speed to outspeed anything that otherwise may be creeping up to like 120 speed. That would creep, I believe, like Tapu Fini, and maybe like a speedy, bulky Raichu or something, or non-invested Shaman, I believe. Something along those lines, but the speed EVs do have a bit of significance. And then the defense and Spadef EVs are just there, so we take like 1 or 2% less from any fighting move that he may want to hit us with. And then the rest are dumped into special attack. We don't necessarily do entirely too much damage to Umbreon or Cresselia, but we are still going to be doing a decent like 20-ish, 30-ish% to them depending on their spread. So yeah, Kyurem Black is just mainly here to lure in one of his giant scary threats in Thundurus or Infernape, and go from there, and worst case scenario, we can lure in Blastoise into a KO him. Next off, we have possibly, most definitely our win condition going into this game, and probably the funnest set on this team, and I came up with this myself. Originally, this was going to be a Trick Room set, because much like last week, Trick Room Uniclus this week looked really good on paper. The main issue though is that Shadow Ball does absolutely 0 to Cresselia, and I really didn't want to try and position myself to need Cresselia to be extremely low in order for me to win, because I would much rather deal with Cresselia as I go and just stop him from trying to boost up every time or recover any time that he tries to go for it. But the great thing about this set, with a modest not max special attack, but with a modest nature, 52 special attack EVs, and a life orb, we are always able to break a substitute of Cresselia. Even if he is at +1, we do a minimum of 25%. And unless he's running like over, I think, 100 Spadef EVs or something, which I highly doubt that he's going to run on a Calm Mind set, then there's no way we break the sub. But even if Cresselia is at +1 behind a sub, we break the substitute, and then we can potentially Calm Mind alongside him or scout out to see exactly what kind of set it is. Essentially, if Reuniclus gets up to +2 in this game, it just basically wins. Like at +2, there's no way Blastoise can 2 KO us unless he flinches us down, which would actually really suck. With this defense and HP investment, we live a non-boosted Z fly from Salamence. We can still take 2 Jolly Flare Blitzes that are not Life Orbed or Choice Banded from Infernape with this EV spread. We can also safely pivot into even max attack Adamant Metagross, and then Umbreon only 4-hit KOs us with Foul Play, which means we can set up on Umbreon, and once I get that second Calm Mind, in theory it should basically be good game at that point. So with Psychic and Signal Beam, we hit absolutely everything for neutral or super effective damage, which is really good because I feel like this set is going to throw him off a little bit, because he's going to see that we're taking physical hits pretty well, and then he's going to see that we're still dealing out a good amount of damage as well. So I have a lot of high hopes for this set, and I really do want it to put in a lot of work. Next off, we have Greninja here, which if you look at his draft, Greninja, man, Greninja looks absolutely just phenomenal in this battle. We are rocking enough speed to outspeed the Thundurus. Now, I know it's a little bit odd that we don't have Ice Beam on this set, but if he brings in Mence against me, there is a chance that he could maybe be Yachi Berry. I highly doubt it though, but if he is Yachi Berry, I would much rather directly go for the taunt against Salamence, stop him from Dragon Dancing, and risk him knocking me out. Between Dark Pulse and Surf with the Wise Glasses, we do pretty good amount of damage to his entire team. Grass Knot is mainly there only for the Blastoise, because we can safely 2 KO Blastoise even if he is running max HP or close to max HP. We do a minimum of 51% and a maximum of like 60ish%, which is really nice. So yeah, like Blastoise is super annoying in this battle, but it's very manageable. The defensive E's allow us to take like 2 or 3% less from Foul Play from the Umbreon. I think at one point I really wanted to try out like a Papa Berry Greninja, because I figured that it would be nice to kind of pivot into Umbreon and potentially into Cresselia if I were in those scenarios. But with Wise Glasses, we do still prove to be a huge offensive threat to his team. Realistically, we don't need Hydro Pump in this battle. Like, Hydro Pump only helps against the Piloswine, which I think I will easily be able to get off enough damage to put it in range of where Surf can knock him out. So at least by having Surf, we have a guaranteed form of stab that is hard for his team to safely switch into. So Umbreon is his best switch into this Greninja, but at the same time, Umbreon is his best switch into my Shaman. So between Shaman and Greninja here, I really feel like those two will be able to overwhelm Umbreon, and because of Taunt, we're going to be able to stop Umbreon from going for Wish or going for Heal Bell or trying to Baton Pass potentially. So that could definitely come in handy in this matchup. I would have liked to maybe have a 4th offensive move, but I feel like these 3 offensive moves and Taunt is more than enough going into this game. While Spikes could be super nice, Blastoise is a great rapid spinner and can easily guarantee a spin, so I would much rather just get on my rocks and then start keeping up offensive pressure in this battle. And then finally off, we have Umaga the Donphan. Now unfortunately, this is more of just a filler Pokemon. The main reason I wanted to bring Donphan is because I felt like Bronzong didn't have as good of a matchup as Donphan did in this battle. And Donphan can realistically get up rocks and pressure most of his team. Like Earthquake into Superpower, I think guarantees a 2-hit KO on Spadef bulky Umbreon. The only problem with the set is that it is complete setup fodder for the Cresselia, so I really have to be careful with that. Ice Shard is super nice for the Thundurus and for the Salamence if they do boost up. After rocks, I believe Ice Shard does actually knock out Salamence, and then Superpower also does a really nice chunk of damage to the Piloswine. Although Knockoff, I think, may honestly not even be that bad to put on this set. I'm almost thinking of changing this to knockoff, because at least by having knockoff, we get rid of items and we can get rid of the Violite. Like, getting rid of leftovers on Umbreon could be absolutely huge, but I mean, Earthquake still does a good chunk of damage, and so does Superpower. I don't know, we'll see how things go. Like, realistically, I'm not going to be really upset if we do lose this game, because again, it's just going to be a nice way to scout out to see exactly like what Aster is expecting us to bring, or what he's expecting, or what we can see he's going to bring for us, essentially, for a potential playoff game. So yeah, guys, that is going to be the team. I have to battle Aster actually 5 minutes ago, so I'm gonna message him, and yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you guys thought about our team. And with that being said, I will see you all tomorrow with the actual battle. So later, everybody.
No matter where you're at, I'm not here to make friends, it's time to attack and deplete your HP with a final smash. Don't make me turn around and pull a 6-foot hacks. 6 foot hacks, yeah. 6 foot hacks, yeah. 6 foot hacks,